Hello and welcome to the CUFI Weekly, and welcome to the first episode of 2022, a new year, and we wish you a very happy new year from everyone at CUFI. I'm your host, Kasim Hafiz. So while it is a new year, sadly for Israel, they are dealing with the same challenges of terror from Gaza they've been dealing with in 2021 and for many years before that. On New Year's Day, 2 rockets were launched from Gaza, which landed in the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of central Israel. These rocket explosions were heard as far as Tel Aviv. Now, the response from Gaza, from Hamas, was that weather had caused these rockets to be fired. I don't know about you, but you know, when it's raining or there's a storm, it doesn't generally trigger rocket fire. But that's what they said. And it's not the first time that Hamas has made this excuse. But there's also questions we have to ask. If, let's believe Hamas for a second, don't get into a habit of it, but let's believe them right now. If weather triggered rockets to be fired, that means that Hamas has an arsenal of rockets which they have in launchers to be fired at any time. Literally, this terror group is ready to inflict terror and murder Israeli civilians at very short notice. Also, you probably noticed this wasn't really covered in much of the mainstream media, if any. I was looking through some of the news sites this morning. Very little was written about it. So yes, it's 2022, but the terror in Gaza continues. The violence from Gaza continues. And while it's a drip at this point, and it hasn't escalated into a full war like we saw in May of last year, it's sad that this doesn't make the news. Israel's daily battle against terror isn't newsworthy. It's not tweet-worthy for all those people who seem to jump on the bandwagon when a conflict breaks out and they want to paint their own narrative. And again, look, I say this all the time, and maybe, yes, it's a new year, but same old message from me. We have to speak out, because this is the reality Israelis are living with. While if you visit Israel, you see this vibrant country, this flourishing country, and you see life happening at any time, at very short notice, that can change dramatically. If those sirens go off, you have seconds, in some cases, to get to a bomb shelter. And just to emphasize the challenges Israel is dealing with, this morning Israel announced that it would be having reservist soldiers on certain bus routes because of rocks being thrown. And when we talk about rocks being thrown, we have this idea that these are little stones and pebbles. No. We're talking about full-on, in some cases, bricks and cinder blocks. These have killed people in the past. And this is what people are dealing with just being on a bus in some cases. Again, this intentional drive to kill innocent Israelis is poisonous, it's dangerous, and it demands a response. But Israel, which has dealt with this since its rebirth, is always trying to de-escalate. It's always trying to not let full blown out conflict erupt. Yet, when escalations happen which lead to conflict, because stories like this, because the regular rocket fire, because the regular attempted terror attacks just simply aren't known by the vast majority of people, they see this isolated incident and believe that Israel is somehow responsible. So, in 2022, we have to be that voice. We have to be those ambassadors, and we have to be the ones speaking the truth. It is important today as it was 6 months ago or a year ago. You have the power to make a significant difference. You have the ability to make the truth heard. So I ask you, speak up and speak out. Thank you for joining us for our first episode of the new year. This is Kasim Hafiz for the CUFI Weekly. For Zion's sake, do not remain silent.
Thanks for checking out today's episode of CUFI Weekly. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the latest news from the Middle East along with topics involving US-Israel relations, please be sure to like and subscribe. And remember to click that notification button so that you are notified every time a new show is uploaded.